Hello, good evening. My name's Paul from Flapjack Press, and welcome to the live stream book launch for Nigel Planer's Making Other Plans. This is Nigel's first poetry collection for 25 years, and we're very, very, very proud to have this and in the publishing stable of Flapjack Press. And it's a very busy time for Nigel at the moment. He's got another book out with Unbound, which is Jeremiah Bourne in time, and a couple of plays on as well. So we're absolutely delighted that Nigel made time to do this live stream launch. And if you have any questions for Nigel during the evening, do feel free to pop them in the comments boxes underneath the live stream video, and we shall try to answer them as we go along. So I think probably best thing to do now is to crack on with it, and for me to properly introduce Nigel.
Am I on yet?
And so please make very, very welcome Nigel Planer.
Hello, hello. Can you see me now?
Indeed.
Great. Hang on, I'll get my tech right. Marvelous. Oh, good to see you. Very good day. I'm beaming because my wife just got out of hospital and she's just got back just now. And so it's a great day. So hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us for a few readings from Making Other Plans, and talk or even readings from Jeremiah Bourne in time, but principally Making Other Plans. And thanks, Paul. It's strange because I've been writing poetry for all my life, really, and only recently have I come up with a collection of it, thanks to Paul here. Yeah, I've put them in order, but reverse order, so they cover the last 50 years. The earliest poem in the book is also the last one in the book, is dated 1970, when I was 17. And the first poem in the book is 2023, and as they sort of progress, they get more and more economical. In fact, the later ones, the last couple of years, has been almost entirely haikus and silly little thoughts, very short, because maybe because of wisdom, but maybe not. I like writing in haikus. If called on to speak at risk of pretentiousness, I would use haikus. First 5 syllables, a second line of 7, then another 5. To speak in haikus is, like I say, pretentious, but keeps you succinct. And as old age steps in, you find you want to be more and more succinct. Another haiku about getting old, in fact, always worrying about cancer and pensions, we move on with joy. And this is one from last year, 2022. Bit of a shit year, fucking 2022, but cyclamen 5s. So they weren't always like that. Some of them were very, very dense. And I always used to like them rhyming, and I also used to like a rhyming structure. As time has gone on, as I say, I got more economical with the poems. I've never had a book to read from before, so I didn't know how to do this event. I used to go out with Henry Normal on tour in the 90s, and I just had sheaves of paper all flying all over the place, but I've actually got the book now. So I've tried to, as you can see, mark it up with all the different types of poems. There's 3 color categories of poems here. I don't know if this is going to work. Pink for love poems. Quite a lot of poems are love poems. there's lots of different kinds of love poems as well. You know, there's requited, there's unrequited, obsessional, dysfunctional. I think most of these are dysfunctional. There's pervy. And I always used to ask audiences, what sort of love poem would you like? And of course, they always came back, just said pervy, give us the pervy ones. So I don't give people the choice anymore. But yeah, as I was saying, I don't know if this will work, this way of categorizing them. Really like categorizing. But anyway, this poem I'm going to read you now. It's called Disheveled Versification, and it was written in 1995. I always used to write my stuff with structure much in mind. It seemed to me that poetry was duff without a pattern to the rhyme. That last verse, for example, was A, B, A, B, but sometimes I would play with tricky ones and elisions, which made it tough to say what I had to say. The one I was most pleased with was a personal invention which went A, B, C, C, B, A, D, E, A, B, C, F. But by those in the know to whom I showed it, I was accused of anal verse retention. So I sent the fruits of my labor to Faber, who puzzled me by writing back to say they had enough disheveled versification. Not being one to rattle my saber, I did not reply, but wondered why they'd chosen, out of all possible valid criticisms, to mention the one thing that did not apply to my poems to explain why they didn't need them. And off the cuff, I'd say they didn't read them. But I suppose that ultimately I was thankful for the rejection. It set me off in a new, less disciplined direction, no longer trying to cut my way through confused poetic brambles. And as you can see, structurally, this one's a complete shambles. There we are. That's disheveled versification. But I did like, I like to read a lot of other poets, and while on the subject of rhyming structure, because there's a lot of, I mean, even Simon Armitage says, oh, I don't like anything that has a rhyming couplet that sums everything up at the end. Although in his early work, he did used to do that a bit himself. It's kind of looked down on a bit, rhyming, capital letters, and especially rhyming couplets at the end. But if I look at some of the great poets, Philip Larkin is one of my favorites. Sometimes he has very, very complicated rhyming structures. And this one is, with apologies to Philip Larkin, this is about structure again and how important it is. It's called Annus Promiscuous. Rhyming structure is like corsetry or a tight pair of trousers, a self-imposed restriction, an ambiguous affliction, like those leather masks and thongs and autoerotic arousers. Sex is sexier in fiction. Like the Catholic Church and its arcane rules on sexuality. Undo the lot and what have you got? Just new style fools in hats and coats. A dull and sexless anarchy, sociology and pot. Without strict rhythm, there cannot be the syncopated offbeat, the rule of thumb on the primal drum, the subconscious way of knowing when you're off and when you're on heat. Are you going now or did you just come? Free verse, like free love, began in 1963, between the end of the Chatterley ban and the Beatles' first LP, and ended in a stale divorce, just in time for me, around the time the Tories broke the BBC. There we are. There's a lot of lifts of lines in that from Philip Larkin. They're not all just silly poems in here, though. There are some serious ones. But I'll stick with the silly ones just for now, I think. anytime you want to, give me a steer or ask a question, then fire away if there are any questions.
Well, we have had a couple of questions already.
Oh, yeah.
And well, sonnets, for example. I mean, are you a fan of sonnets?
I remember writing a sonnet when I was at school, but it's long disappeared. I haven't written a sonnet for a long time. I wrote them when we were sort of studying them at school for O-level or whatever, GCSE. And I can't remember that at all. They have little rhyming couplets at the end, don't they? That system. I should have another go. 14 lines. I have written a play in iambic pentameters in verse, and that's a remarkably great exercise. It's good fun, that is. But on the whole, the book is quite random. This book is quite random. It's been called Making Other Plans for a very deliberate reason. It's based on the John Lennon. It's not Making Plans for Nigel, which Henry insists it must be, on the XTC song. There's a line in a John Lennon song, Beautiful Boy, which goes, "Life is what happens to you when you're making other plans." And I thought it was quite appropriate. Poetry is what happens to me when I'm making other plans, when I'm trying to do sensible things. Life, it's another haiku. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. Poetry also. So they're not all stupid. Some of them are stupid. I like the stupid ones. When I say stupid, I don't mean bad. Some of them I've written in the characters of others. So when it says I did this, I did that, it's not always me. It's people I've talked to, people I knew, people I've read about. And Constant Caterpillar is the wrong one. I found one just now that I'm going to have to get better at this green marking system, I think. Looking After Mother, 1989. This is based on a woman I knew. This is what she, is that in the way? No, that's all right. That's all right. It's called Looking After Mother. So the I is this person I knew. For my wedding day, I was less worried about what I was going to wear than I was about my mother. Would she arrive in some torrid, low-cut, swirling see-through affair with a bride-crushing bouquet in her hair and work the male guests into a lather? When I had my first child, she used to write professional advice notes to me about whether I should have the bathroom retiled. Something from Conran's would be nice, and whether baby should be eating meat or rice. We remained in competition with each other. The problem with my mum is chronic. Scatty, bubbly, she cannot face daughter's question time, but would rather kiss hello and pour a gin and tonic and dress in frills and baby lace and ladify Monroe-like round the place. We never had a drunken laugh together. Her boyfriends and affairs were always rather badly hidden. We always knew when she found another beau to play with for a few exotic days. The family would wait while she was smitten, floating around like an oven-heated kitten, and then would take abuse when she recovered. So my poor husband has to manage with a stuck-up, preachy wife who cannot see herself as anybody's lover and is so vigilant at damage limitation that the rest of his life will be spent under the stagnating knife of my overcompensation for my mother. So quite bitter, some of these. So of the love poems, though, moving on swiftly. Talking of my wife who's just got back from hospital. It's easier writing song lyrics in a way, because anything will, you can do anything in the song as long as it rhymes, really. The rhyming, you know, beguiled again, a child again, I just had my bathroom retiled again. Don't cry for me, I'm the cleaner, you're all right. But in a poem, it has to somehow, you don't have the music to give you the you know, the extra oomph. England swings like a pendulum do, bobbies on bicycles are a thing of the past. Doesn't work as a song at all. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know if I'm looking forward to it. It wouldn't work in a song. But this is the other way around. This is a love song written recently to my recently returned wife. You'll recognize the song it's based on. It's a complete rip-off of an existing song, which I'm sure you'll recognize. No Stevie Wonder, no Bach cantata, no guitar solo by Jeff Beck or Brian May, no Paul Gauguin, no late Cézanne, no gorgeous cutout by Matisse or Lush Monet, no Jimmy shoes, no fancy shoes, no tailored outfits with designer label tags, no Dinny Hall, no jewels at all, not even featured accessories and handbags, no Italian food, no well-lit mood, no tickets for a show, then taxi home, no pink bouquet, no breakfast tray, no surprise Eurostar to Paris nor to Rome. I just called to hear you laughing. I just said what came into my head. I really did. Because there's nothing like you laughing. I hope I hear you laughing when I'm dead. Thanks. You must have guessed what song that was based on. And it is quite morbid, actually. I just realized a morbid love song, not just a love poem. Talking of which, morbid. A morbid love poem. This is also written to my wife some years ago. This was written in 1996. It's called Assuming You Go First. It's an example of the morbid love poem. When you've become a will and a jar of bits, am I going to incinerate myself the way it hits some people? Or were they wasted, the years to please you, opportunities and proper lives I missed? But when I'm pissed, it all comes out. I cry, please don't die. I always think of the time with you as night and chocolate conversation and clever candlelight that flatters. And all that mess and the stress of your dogs and broken buildings and teenage junk, and I'm a skunk to get this drunk, and I cry, please don't die. On the plane back from some island where it's hot, I wondered whether I'd be frightened or not if we crashed, and thought it would be okay today to plummet together. Your dress was exotic floral, but when the alcohol level is high, I cry, please don't die. There we are. Any other questions on the question board?
Well, I've got a question from Melanie, wondering what your writing process is, if there is anything specific.
Well, as I say, there used to be. I used to try and think of the most complicated rhyming structure with rhymes that went from verse to verse and reverse and did all that, and then try and fit the thing. It'd be like 3 in the morning, and I'd try and fit the thoughts in, and then I've loosened up as time has gone on. But for prose and plays, it's easier to use discipline. You know, you get up, you know you've got to do another 2,000 words, or you've got to write another scene. And writing poems is a bit more random. I think, for instance, here's one that I just did day before yesterday. I woke up. This is an event that happened where you must all recognize it. You know, when you've done the wash and there's only one sock, where's, you know, and you've lost it. So I just wrote down, I found out where lost socks go. They're inside duvet covers. Might be something good to know for those with secret lovers. I found 6 there this morning. I suspect there will be others. When I was young, if one was gone, I'd just take my brother's. And then all hell broke loose, but these days no one bothers. So there's no process in that. That's just like, I found a sock in a duvet cover. But yeah, I don't think there is a process. It's just reading and writing and having the space in your mind, which is sometimes hard if you're dealing with a lot of day-to-day stuff. And these categories might be quite, you know, that's meant to be funny ones, that's meant to be love ones, and that's meant to be serious ones. I don't know if this system's going to work, because I'm out doing gigs reading from this book with Henry Normal all through the autumn. And I don't know if this sort of random, what shall I do next system is going to work. I would like to read maybe one that's, if you say are serious, that makes it sound like it's not going to be any fun. But one that's got maybe more intent. It used to be anger was the process. I used to get very angry with stuff and feel I couldn't express myself. Nobody would be listening. So I would go to write poetry, not really for consumption, more for, you know, to express anger. But then that's not always a good process. This is about a failed love affair. It's called Falling Out, 1996, the autumn. Falling out. In the autumn at Kew Gardens, I used to rush the piles of leaves and kick about while yellow, brown, and rufous red fell out of the chestnut trees. It was 1960, and Mummy took Cinny of me and my scabby knees. I made a show of it for her moving picture memories. I ploughed in, spraying foliage like a plucky toy tractor, trying to please a proper little actor. When the scene replayed, the projector made that tocky-tock noise. And afterwards we had to roll up the wonky screen, and Dad would have been suitably distracted, no doubt. But then we moved out to a different house and different games. And I put the leaves out of my head until you cried. And the fall was like the leaves. And that amber color of your skin and hair like dirty gold in the autumn air, and again down by the river, and again I felt I must deliver. And as the Thames went chill, a shiver of recognition clicked, and I kicked about in your tears while yellow, brown, and rufous red fell out of the trees, and we ploughed on with bickering and critical appraisals of each other's intentions. And then we went back into the house and remembered we were different now, and thought we ought to have sex and such, and tried to talk of different things. Our efforts at conversation like syncopated clocks, ticking furiously against each other in an international bank, synchronized to tell the time in different parts of the world, different times for naughty boys and different times for girls. And grown up now, not capable of being completely frank. You show me photographs of your mummy circa 1960, and epitaphs of your dad and the illness that he had, and it's sad and I agree. And then you feel our contact's real, it's tumescent spring. You've got me here, but yellow, brown and rufous red fall out and kick about in the other hemisphere. There we are, that's falling out in the autumn. There was this thing, I just came across this. There was this thing on I think it was Loose Ends, the radio program, where John Hegley, the poet, who I used to know from the Comedy Store days, they said that I'd criticized his poems or something. And he mentioned it in some, it sort of turned into one of those, this is before the internet, you know, before Twitter and all of that, or X. So it turned into a kind of question answer thing in the newspapers between me and John. So I wrote this little apology to him and got it published. Can't remember where it was published. Dear Hegley, Loose Ends, or the Independent, evidently said, I think you tend to write off the top of your head. Dear John, please note, it was not a quote when they said I said your poetry was fluff. It was some journo in his own private inferno, not me. I like your stuff. At least I did when I last saw it in 1983. Only joking. When's that? That was written in 1995, so 12 years previously. Yeah. And a little go at John Hegley. You see how cutting edge is that? Yeah. As I started doing the gigs, poetry gigs, I started writing on the way on the train, because I realized you can't put all these, you know, these rants and angry ones and self-pitying ones and everything. You can't be doing that. So I wrote this on the train up to Chester one time, for fun. It's called Psychorama. 1994 would have been my gig in Chester. Yeah, that's what it is. Looking back over the millennia and the many lives I've had, and pondering on religion and the advances made in science, and why things are so much better now for psychotherapists and their clients. It's not that I'm sexist, un-PC, or other gender crimes. It's just that, being the reincarnation of Ramesses III, I miss my 50 wives sometimes. Now I live in SE1. To a wife from Willesden I've been mated. At least this time I'm human. I was a meal moth last time reincarnated. I've been an ant, a toad, an airline wet wipe towel, and countless other lives. But to be honest, every time I come back round, I miss my 50 wives. It was no picnic being king and God rolled into one and having single-handedly to keep the human race from going down. The paperwork was arduous. The nappies weighed a ton. A certain regal skill was needed to care for crowds of eager queens and making sure each had an equal share of my superior genes. Also, it was a man's job keeping the neighboring states at bay. I spent 17 years fighting them, and while I was away, wives 24 to 38 mysteriously ended up with buns in the oven. Must have been some kind of hieroglyphic coven. As I say, it wasn't easy being divine and sprogging little Ramesses all the time. But what the Osiris, I could afford it. Although between you and me, the sex was overrated. Nevertheless, on my return from the war, I had the entire civil service castrated. But nowadays in SE1, with just one wife, it's a very different scene. Although occasionally I see what looks like 3 in the glossy magazines. When the moon is high, and so am I, and one stands there in her nightie, I sometimes catch a glimpse, the faintest trace of Nefertiti. She looks at me with that same glow in her complexion, "Where have you been all night?" she says. "It's time for your injection." Just like my number one, especially when cross. I smile and murmur, "Yes, dear," to let her know she's boss. So up the stairs I go to bed and lie there in pajamas, thinking how uncomplicated life is now without all the other Mrs. Ramas. And in she comes, we cuddle some, and everything is fine. And although I dream of them, I reckon I'll get by without the other 49. There we are, that's Psychorama. Any other questions about this book, about other things going on?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm well aware that you've also got Jeremiah Bourne in Time out as well. So,
oh yeah, yes,
wonder if
I'm indeed
willing to tell us all a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's a time travel story set around where I live in London. It's set in the same street, in the same place in 1910, 2019, just before the lockdowns, and 2123, so in 100 years from now. So it spans 300 years. And Jeremiah Bourne finds, he doesn't know why, that he can travel in time. He finds, not through any kind of time machine, but just through mental triggers, that he goes backwards in time. And it's the mental triggers that are the key to the book. It's I was fascinated by the idea of inherited memory. You know, how come birds know how to fly south? I don't know if you saw that video on YouTube of the beaver that had never seen a river, never been in a forest, had been brought up in a flat, so that from birth. And first thing it did when it could waddle about was try and build a dam in this apartment. It got teddies, it got cups, it got litter, it got everything it could find in the flat and built a dam. And that fascinates me, that there is obviously some kind of collective knowledge that's inherited, and there's no reason to assume that human beings don't have elements of that as well. So walking around where I live, there's a lot of history. For instance, outside our Tesco's, there's a stone that they didn't remove when they put the beautiful Tesco's sort of pavings down. It's from 300 AD, and it's got writing in it saying when it was put there and the name of the person who put it there. And this feeling that the past is still with us really inspired me to imagine what happens if you know, memory were super memory. And Jeremiah's mum is a London taxi driver. She disappeared a few years ago, and that's the mystery of the story. Where's she gone? The clue may be in the title, Jeremiah Bourne in Time, and he has to find her. I had a problem thinking of the future world. What would the world be like in the future? And I wrote some versions with, you know, like science fiction cliches in sort of magnet cars and flying, you know, sort of, it all went a bit Blade Runner. And A, it wasn't very funny like that. And B, I figured it's probably not true, because although, you know, technology may change and improve, human nature doesn't. As Flaubert, the author Flaubert, says, the one thing you can be certain about the future is that people will still be stupid. And so I tried to imagine a time in the future where the Residents' Association are still bickering, bureaucratic, and annoying each other. And it's a time with no technology, because I imagined a day, and we got time, where are we? Yeah, I'll read you a little, it's only a minute or so. Imagine a day, imagine if there was a future where we lost all our data. Imagine if all our data is like this balloon, in a little balloon, and like a helium balloon, and the little girl lets go of it and off it flies, and the dad says, you know, don't worry, I'll get you another one. But the little girl says, no, that's the one I wanted. It's like the human right, all of our data in there. We give our data all the time. Imagine if it all went and we had nothing. Suddenly people with big memories would become very high status. People who could remember how to make an engine, how to make a bridge, how to read, how to do anything, how to brush your teeth, because everything has become, we can't remember phone numbers anymore. Everything's just in the hands of the few billionaire people who control our lives. So just in the opening of the book, to imagine this future, I'll just read you, it's just a short piece about how that happened. Geoffrey Pritchard bears no relevance to this story other than his final click. Sometime towards the middle of this century, he sits down at a table outside a bar in Bermondsey, London. It's quite a hot day, even for September, 46 degrees Celsius. And on his mobile device, he begins to go through the usual portals you have to in order to order a beer. Allow use of location, no, I do not want to subscribe, log in, accept cookies, security settings, ID verifications, credit check, targeted advertising, system updates, portal passwords, menu choices, until he reaches the final purchase confirmation click. 1 pint of beer, please. Yes. Neither he nor anyone else is aware at that time that it is Geoffrey's final click that is the final click. The moment that the Internet of Things, or IoT, becomes the Internet of nothing. Zilch, nada. Geoffrey's is the final click that overloads the system and tips it into oblivion. By the time of Geoffrey's last click, every single human activity has become digitized. From the entire contents of the British Library to world banking, transport, brushing your teeth, how to open your front door, feed your baby, find your way to the corner shop. So after that final click, or post-Pritchard, if you like, some large behavioral adjustments have to be made. The butterfly effect states that the tiniest change in the initial state of things, a butterfly spreading its wings in India in 1862, for instance, can result in large differences in a later state of things, such as space travel or the Second World War. Geoffrey Pritchard's final click is like that butterfly. And that's the last you or anyone will ever hear of Geoffrey, I promise. So that's like the opening of the book. And it is, you never hear of Geoffrey again. He's completely irrelevant to the story. And it's a sort of adventure story, really. It's got baddies and goodies and strange characters. I tried very much to write in the genre, the non-genre. It's not a genre. It's not young adult. It's not literary fiction. It's I suppose in the manner of Terry Pratchett. I read not all, but nearly all of the audiobooks of Terry Pratchett's Discworld, and there's a sort of place in the market for like Blackadder, Terry Pratchett, Douglas Adams, even Adrian Mole, where you know, grown-up people from the age of 12 want to read some intelligent stuff, but that's not going to bog them down with worthiness or with you know, I was going to say issues, but there are issues in it. It's about eugenics. It's actually about way eugenics was very popular in 1910, and some quite unusual people were, like George Bernard Shaw, were really quite keen on eugenics of all things, which is the science the Nazis used to create the Holocaust. So Bernard Shaw was initially quite a supporter of that, of that science. So I mean, there are issues in it, but the history is kind of accurate, like Blackadder, but the characters in it are ridiculous. So it's been a lot of fun to write, and I'm going to be in. Where am I going to be? On Saturday, I'm going to be in Hastings Literary Festival, doing other readings from it. And it's the publisher put on the cover, book 1 of the Time Shard Chronicles. So I've got to write another 2 now. But actually, I'm looking forward to it. I've got a plan for the second one, and it's nice because it's nice when you've got some characters. It's, you know, you disappear into a world, reading it or writing it. It's nice to have a sort of a funny world to go to. So that's Jeremiah Bourne in Time in Unbound Books. That's the name of the publisher. Yeah. Thanks for the plug. Yeah.
And available from all good bookshops.
Yeah, it is. I love that when they say available from all good bookshops. Would you say a bad bookshop? Oh, I'm a bad bookshop. I'm trying to. We're on the tour that we're doing. We're linking up with all the local bookshops, because I think that's both for this book and for Jeremiah Bourne. We're trying to link up as much as we can with all the local bookshops, because they're, like the rest of the high street, in danger of disappearing at the moment, and everything coming online and becoming homogenized, as it does, because the internet is so vast. And so I'm grateful. We've had quite a good response from a lot of local bookshops coming back saying, oh yeah, we'll come along to that, and we'll support that, sell the books there, the venues. So that's all going well. Yeah. Any other questions have you got up there? Has everyone gone to sleep now already?
Well, one question here, really. I mean, possibly in relation to Jeremiah Bourne in Time, is there a potential screenplay in the offing anywhere along the line?
Well, if asked,
are we going for the shout out for that one now? So.
I think it would be a good telly. There was a radio, not a radio, what do you call it, audio dramatization of an early draft of some of what's in the book, one of the strands, with Big Finish, which is still available. And it's really good. It's got an amazing cast. It's got Tim McInerney and Celia Imrie and the rest, tons of them. It's pretty good. It's not the whole book. It's from an early draft, and Big Finish are the people who do Doctor Who videos. They do a lot of audios. They do a lot of Doctor Who. They've been doing them since the original Doctor Who's were out, and they've given it slightly the Doctor Who treatment. So it's got that music, and it's quite fast paced. And the elements I was talking about just now, about the time travel, particularly the future, which I've imagined a really chronically pathetic future, that's not in that audio version. It's very much more sort of an exciting time travel adventure. But so yeah, I think it'd make a great telly adaptation, but I think I've got to finish writing the 3 books first and see how it all goes. I'll do 2 or 3 short poems that are perhaps a little bit silly. This one's called Corduroy. Apologies, but someone had to say this. Whether you are other, girl or boy, you can feel comfortable with corduroy. Not like some ideologue who needs a creed, even if, like me, you're rather fond of tweed. No, this is ribbed, warm, and easy to enjoy. It cocks its sleeve at trends. It's corduroy. And there we are. That was what I feel about corduroy. Just these are all little ones. This is 2021 in Kent. This is, I saw a trapped bird on a wire. Greedy woodpecker hanging by its twisted wing, screeching its red head off, tangled in the nylon string. Tried to match. Sorry, I saw there was a cat in the back of your shot there. I thought the moment I mention a bird, suddenly the cat appears. Well, that's, you've got a very clever cat there. Yeah, he's very clever. I'll start it again. Yeah. Greedy woodpecker hanging by its twisted wing, screeching its red head off, tangled in the nylon string. Tried to reach the peanuts stacked inside the cage, now dangling helpless in coruscating rage. Spinning like a dervish when I tried to get near, so I snipped the cord with nail scissors. In a second it was clear. There we are to that. Just some, try to find something to wish people on their way. Not sad ones. This is a poem called Great Sex. I imagine if the world's two worst laid ever got together, they'd have great sex. Thank you. That's that one. I'm zipping through to the end as we go, so that we can get eventually to 1970, because that's where we should finish. In 1970, before any of you were born. Yeah, here I am in 1987. Oh, it all gets always a bit depressing. 1987, and then cats and dogs. I dreamed about war with the cat. This is about you, yes, you, I can see. I dreamed about war with the cat, my nerves and where he'd shat, his fur all over the chair, my dinner all drowned in his hair. In the dream, I imagined him dead, but woke with him close to my head, purring into my face, my neck, the cat's resting place. What did you think of it? What did you think of that one? No, he's completely ignoring it. 1917. You've got to imagine, I'm 17 at this time. And the proof that this wasn't written recently is that there's a line in it. He talks about blankets. Me, talks about blankets. So this is that long ago. This is before duvets came in, when we used to have sheets and blankets which were tucked under the mattress, and they'd always slide off the bed. So that's how old this poem is, 1970. It's called Ain't Missing You at All. Dear absentee, it's 3 degrees centigrade and am missing you. I still sleep spread-eagled diagonally across the bed with my feet sticking out the end. And I still squeeze the toothpaste carefully from the end of the tube. I don't know if they were on your list or not. But since it's been so cold, I haven't had occasion to wear my t-shirt with the holes in it that you hated so much. Last night, you wouldn't let me dream properly. And this morning, I realized as I lay in bed that blankets are not warm. They only retain your body heat. Your body is the warm thing. And it wasn't there this morning. There we are. A love poem, an actual proper love poem, not a pervy or dysfunctional one. An actual I'm missing you love poem. So what happened from the age of 17 to now? Dear, oh dear.
Oh, that's wonderful, Nigel. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks everybody who listened in.